Hi guys, it's Ben here. Welcome back to another Scared Equine video blog. In today's video blog, I'm going to be talking about how real change happens in your life. And I think change is one of those things that is so frustrating and sometimes depressing, and it's so hard and so difficult and challenging for human beings in general. And I think a lot of that difficulty and that struggle and that challenge, while it is completely necessary, so often when we're in the middle of it, we just don't see the relevance of that sometimes that discomfort and the pain and the uncertainty and the vulnerability that's involved in change. And I think this is one of the reasons why change is such a scary thing for so many people. One of the things that really revolutionized my understanding of change was a model of change that I was introduced to years ago. And it really grounded me emotionally. It gave me so much clarity and precision and so much more insight into why change was so difficult for me. And since that time that I was introduced to that model of learning, I have really changed my whole perspective on how change works and how it happens. And I'm going to share that model with you today because I think it's such an empowering tool to have, because it's helped me so much. So one of the things that, one of the reasons why change is so difficult for people is the simple idea that when you change something, you're going against the grain of a lot of the patterns and habits that you may have already established for so long. And that inertia of those habits and patterns and beliefs and emotions that are hardwired, that inertia that's been created because of that conditioning is what makes it so difficult then to step out and try a new program or a new pattern or habit. Because our mind is so comfortable, our brain, and the way our brain works with the neuroplasticity and shaping and changing, our brain is hardwired to be responding in certain situations in certain ways with certain emotions. So when we do something, we want to do something different, we have to challenge those old ways of learning. Now, as far as the brain goes, when we have a pattern that's really well established, that pattern is so strong and so it's so easy because the brain has such a strong neuro pathway and connection that's grown and built, and it's been structured over many years, that it's just such a hard thing for it to all of a sudden go a different way. So you can imagine taking, I always use the metaphor of a dirt track. You know, if you're going on this dirt track and you've always taken the same dirt track, and it's a really well clear dirt track, it's got, it's really flat, it's really well manicured, and then on the other side of that dirt track you've got a bush track. You've got a track that goes through the bush that's not cleared, that's got cobwebs, spider webs, snakes, all these kind of scary things in it. Which track are you going to want to take? I'm pretty sure I can answer that for you. You're going to take the track that's nice and cleared and easy to walk through. That's just human nature. We try and avoid situations that are potentially scary, uncomfortable, because it's part of our fight or flight mechanism. And so herein lies the challenge and the I guess the frustration and the fear around change, because our brain says this dirt track is the one we always use and it's much easier to go through. This is going to be much better for our survival. This new path, while it's scary as hell, it might be necessary that we have to now go down this new path to get to something that's really important, because we've got to change our route. Yet again, our brain and our subconscious will create that inertia and that resistance, because it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel raw, it will feel very, 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 I guess, frustrating and sometimes even depressing to try and etch a new track in that new path that we want to go. And so this is how the brain works. The more we use that new path and we clear that way, and we take ourself through it, and we consciously keep pushing through and clearing it and using it, repeating it, that new path will become a lot stronger, and it'll rehardwire our brain structure and our physiology and our subconscious mind and all of our emotions. so that that change then becomes the new process that we engage in, the place that we live from now. And so this is how the change takes place, and this is why it can be so frustrating. So the 4 steps that we go through when we change are unconscious incompetence, and this is this phase, the step where we don't know that we don't know. It's the ignorance is bliss. I'm just walking along innocently, minding my own business, and I don't even know that I don't know yet, because circumstances in my life haven't pointed out to me that I need to change. So the next step is conscious incompetence. Conscious incompetence is the holy crap moment. It's the moment where we go, oh man. And that's where a lot of us, it's like, the pit of our stomach, we feel that fear, we feel that sinking feeling. And this is where it's can be very confronting, and it's where the shit hits the fan, so to speak. Because a pattern that maybe has served us for so long is now not doing the job anymore. We can't rely on this same pattern again because it's not doing the job that it used to do. And so this is the vulnerable space of learning, because this is where the vulnerability starts, because now we're in new territory. This is uncertain. We don't know what to do now. We don't have a program for this. This is where a lot of emotions come up: fear, vulnerability, frustration, anger, resentment. All these things can come up in this one step. And this is why a lot of people don't even bother making the change, because they realize that they don't know, and there's an incompetence, and they want to run away from it. And so there's really 3 responses that we have at this point. We have the fight, flight, or freeze response. Okay, these are the most common responses that I can guarantee that we all have in these situations. If not temporarily, then prolonged. If it's something that really, rocks us to our core. So the fight response is we fight the change. And I think we can all relate to fighting change, resenting other people, getting angry, going out of our way just to defend the old way of doing things. This is how I used to do it. I don't want to change. I'm not going to change. And we maybe stick the middle finger up. We do all sorts of different things. We fight the change. The fleeing the change or the flight response is to run away from change. I'm going to move to a different state, a different country. I'm going to pretend like, that change is not there. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to avoid the change. That's the flight response, avoiding at all costs, whether mentally, emotionally, or even physically, by moving somewhere. And then there's the formidable freeze response. Okay, the freeze response is kind of like the deer in the headlights, like it's just like the stunned mullet response, where when change happens and we get that step of conscious incompetence where we realize that we don't know, we just go internal, we shut down, and we just kind of almost abandon the world for a period of time. You might go and hide out in our room, and again, it's a form of flight as well, but it's an internalization. It's a freeze response. We stay stuck in that uncomfortable situation, in those emotions around it, and we kind of brew in it, if that makes sense. And we can probably all relate to one of those 3 responses. So again, just thinking about which one of those 3 responses is my fallback: the fight, the flight, or the freeze response. Which one? And so the next step, once we've actually gone, okay, I need to change, okay, I'm willing to change, we've had the insight that we know change is necessary, we know now that we want to make the change, and this is where we were going, this is where we've got to go. Now we're in this phase of conscious competence, where we're admitting the realization that we need to change, and we're making a conscious decision then to look at how we're going to do that. What new patterns, ideas, tools, support do I need to make this new change happen? Who can I get in my environment that has already been this way, that can maybe give me some ideas, has lots of experience to provide me with valuable insights on how this change is going to take place in my life? And again, this step is also about repetition, repetition, repetition. Once we know what these new programs are, the conscious competence phase is about repetition. And this is, again, another place where we all sometimes can fall down a little bit. The consistency of the change might be lacking a little bit. We get distracted and the old patterns draw us back into what we used to be doing, so we get pulled off track and oh, hang on, I've got to remember, I'm doing this now, I'm not doing this. We've got to go back and keep repeating and keep changing that old program out for the new program. And this is very frustrating. It can be very confronting because the old program, the old dirt track that it's so much clearer and cleaner is always going to be there. It's going to be the easy, safe, comfortable option. But we know from now on, because we're in the conscious competence phase, that we need to take the beaten track with the spiders and and the snakes and the cobwebs. So we start making our way through, and we push on. We have our machete. We're slashing through things. We're trying to, you know, get rid of the snakes. And that's the repetition phase. Repeating, 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 repeating. And eventually we clear through the scrub, and we go out the other side, and there's this beautiful oasis. And that beautiful oasis is what I like to call the last step on these steps of change, and that is unconscious competence. Unconscious competence is where we go, I did that now with not even having to think about it. I can just do it. It's just easy. No effort's required because the pathway is so strong now, so well developed. It's so established in me. I repeated it so much that it's just second nature. It's unconscious competence. So again, this is where, you know, like that experience that we have when we're driving a car and we can drive to work and we don't even know how we got there sometimes. We're able to look out the window, look at this scenery and talk to our friend in the driver's side, yet our body just knew how to change gears. It knew how to put its foot on its clutch and knew how to steer and maintain boundaries and be aware of its space, all without having to think so much, because it's a subconscious program. It's unconscious competence. Now, one of the very common, simple examples of this is learning to ride a bicycle. And this is something that I noticed from my kids as they were going through the process, how this whole process of change went with riding bicycles. So we can probably all remember our first attempts at riding bicycles, you know, the skinned knees, the bruised egos, the tears and all those things. And this is something that my kids went through. And what I noticed was you could see that the steps, you know, the first step is for them, and we got them these balance bikes, and these balance bikes, they go around and they've just got their legs either side, there's no pedals, and they're just walking around and just learning to steer the steering wheel, push with their legs. And it's a really great idea because it helps them develop that basic skill of moving around like that. And now, as they first do that, there's going to be a few times where they go a bit fast and they fall over. And again, it's that unconscious, that conscious incompetence where they realize, oh, I don't know how to navigate that rock yet or that steep hill yet. So they have to, you know, their brain keeps giving them feedback as they keep doing it. And they gradually, through conscious competence, they develop unconscious competence. And they go around after a while, and after, you know, you can see now they get around, they go down the hill, they go up the hill, they can navigate all these different difficult tracks and obstacles without a lot of conscious effort. And all because they've practiced. But again, they started in unconscious incompetence. They didn't know that they didn't know how to ride a bike until they saw one, they tried to get on it. Oh, I don't know. And then through the practice, they got to unconscious competence. This is how that process works. So I hope that's given you some insights. And again, I want you to sort of share with me some of the situations and stories and experiences that you've had of how that process of change has worked for you in your life. Please like and share, and I will see you in the next video.